Hi, everybody. This is podcast number 5 for BBS Film Productions. What's the name of this thing again? It's called, there's a name for it. We name our, what's our film, what is it called? It's called something.
Fifth podcast?
No, there's a name we have it. Final Cuts. That's it.
Final Cuts.
Well, that's the name of our newsletter, too. So anyway, Final Cuts is what this is. It's
Well, you better start it over again.
No, I want to talk about right through it. So Final Cuts is the name of the newsletter. I totally forgot that. So, and it's also the name of our podcast. Final Cuts means what?
Of course, the last cuts before you finish your video and or vodcast.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Or podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
Which just brings us into our first subject, which is budgets and what it takes to develop a budget for a video or a vodcast or a podcast. And, you know, we're getting towards the end of the year, and it's one of those things that people are going to start needing to put their budgets together if they haven't already for next year's marketing. So, Denny, tell us a little bit about what comes into play when people have to create budgets for marketing in general.
Oh, well, you know, it's kind of interesting that you asked that. We're on the cusp of 2023. So, you know, this is the time, if you haven't done it already, better get on the stick, because you have to look at your marketing strategies and your marketing plans and kind of lay out the landscape as to where your marketing dollars are going to go. You know, and of course, website is important, your marketing communications budgets, whether you're doing any type of reach to your audiences, to your targets, to your customers. You know, you need to include all of the elements where you're looking at social media, trade shows, if there are available, any type of communications that goes to salespeople and end users. But podcast is something that is growing exponentially right now. Actually, it has been growing for a long time. In the last 6 years,
it's coming to light now
well,
with people.
Yeah,
everybody's just now starting to go, oh,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? This is a way that we can get our name out in front of people. There's a very minimal cost to it.
Well, the only real minimal cost you have is setting up a microphone and a camera and good lighting.
Yeah, and there's tons of software out there that disseminate it to wherever you want to go.
But you need a topic, and you need to have something that's going to reach people with information. And you have to look at what is that information and how important it is to the audience you're speaking to. I was saying in the last 6 years, the growth of podcast has been off the charts. I mean, you look at some of the top 10 most popular podcasts right now in 2022, top of the list, Joe Rogan, a little controversial, but it's information. It's value of thinking that, you know, what are the words that are kind of working with these top podcasts? Look, Crime Junkie is another one. My Favorite Murder. You look at some of these topics, it's the shock value. It's also just even transferring it over to mass television, crime stories, sex, the truth, if you call it the truth, because sometimes people want to put out the truth, then it's not necessarily the truth, but it becomes misinformation. So there's a lot of people that are interested in learning of what's going on, but they're also fascinated by stories of interest that go into those categories, like crime and love life and gossip and those types of things. But let's take it back into the business world. The business world is perhaps instructional, you know, in terms of what you can convey to your customers. What can you teach them or have them learn about your products or company that's informative to them, but they want to listen about more. You know, it could be a step-by-step type of discussion in a podcast of, hey, you know what, we built this product and here's how we did it.
Yeah,
you know,
solve a problem. You solve a problem for a customer.
Here's the inside secrets to how we really got this onto the marketplace. You know, things like that.
So going back to budget and things of that nature. So if we're looking at a budget for, you know, doing your marketing, or let's go specifically for video. Okay. One other thing to think about is, in addition to podcasts, there are vodcasts, and vodcasts are basically video formats of your podcast, and that's an important factor. The other thing is editing your your vodcast and your podcast for all the little things that could pop up and getting your commercials in there and whatnot. So where was my train of thought going?
Well, I think when you say a vodcast, what we're doing right now is a vodcast.
Correct.
And so,
and a podcast.
And it's a podcast, but video-wise, it can also be supported with B-roll. There's our conversation going on, but in terms of being able to support that conversation, if we're talking about particular subjects or locations or anything that might relevantly go towards a video support, then you can use the B-roll to kind of support what you're talking about.
Going back to budget. So a budget could really, you know what, if you're doing this out of your house and you're starting out, you might have a couple $100 involved with doing your podcast. They're very inexpensive to put out. And you put them out raw and see what happens, But when you get, I think, to the next level, when you get to you want to do this as a business or you start getting a lot of followers, what we're finding out is a lot of these vodcasters, they like doing the podcast, but they don't like editing them and they don't like disseminating them and getting them out in front of the public.
Right.
So we've kind of found a nice niche where, we're starting to see them come to us and say, hey, it's actually a whole industry. There's many groups out there doing it, but you'll send them the footage, they edit it, make it look really cool, and send it back to you. Some do it overnight, others do it within a handful of days. But it's a kind of a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for the people that are doing the podcast, and it's also a win for the groups that are producing the podcast for them. Because it's a steady business and they get steady results.
Well, I think
nice.
the initial investment, if you have an iPhone or a Galaxy, the latest models really, have excellent quality in video, and and the ability to capture it in different types of light. But also, that's one part of it, and also having good sound and audio to go along with it.
Right.
Now, you can pick it up on your phone, or you can combine the two together, or you can get help putting the two together as well.
Now, I'm going to divulge a secret right now that is nobody knows about. This is a prop. This is not being used right now. It could be used, but it just looks cool because it stands there and it shows that we have a podcast. What's really being used for us are these little mics right here. And these are like little lapel mics
there
that
you go.
can use. Right. You can look at them and that's where they are. We also have some other cool mics up here. I don't know if Eddie can get a shot of those.
The booms.
So the boom mics.
Yeah.
Basically, that's another way that you can do it. It's a unidirectional mic that shoots down and only picks
we
up
also
our
have
specific voices.
we have some very nice side lighting here as well, with LEDs, and that's the next level.
Right. This is your higher end, studio that you can go into. But what it does is it creates flexibility for you, so you're able to do almost anything you want.
But you can do a tabletop lighting system that's really
there's a lot
nice.
of things
There's
you can
little
do.
ones that you can just use as a ring to give you nice lighting and and visibility. And last year we were doing, actually earlier this year, Zoom calls with different CEOs around the country for an annual meeting. And some of these CEOs just have it all buttoned up because their company knows how to set it up. And so you may be in a company where you've got a room already set up to do these things. And so your minimal investment's already made. Actually, your maximum investment's already made.
Right.
It's taking the advantage of that to set it up for a podcast, with your personnel, your different levels of management or sales or marketing or engineering. You can put any of these people into a discussion mode and really make it more informative.
Right, and the other thing is the prices are all over the place for editing as well. So once you get your initial investment of cameras and what you want for audio, we've done a lot of research on this, and it really ranges. I mean, I've seen them as low as $10 an episode for half an hour for audio, up to $8,000 an episode for audio, video, recording, everything, and advertising and putting it out in front of all the directories. So there's a huge range in there, and I think the best thing to do is think about what you can afford. Think about what you can afford and think in terms of like a monthly basis. So if you say, hey, I only got $100 a month or $50 a month, then you go to the lower end guy, you try him out, or maybe you try to do it yourself. But if you really want a professional and you're starting to get a lot of followers, then you may want to look at a group that can handle this on a full-time basis, where you know you're going to get your product back the next day. You know it's going to be on time, and you know it's going to be at the cost that they say it's going to be.
Yeah, I just came back from Louisville, the Equip Expo.
Yeah.
And they had a roundtable discussion with, I shouldn't call it roundtable, a stage discussion with the leading influencers in the lawn and landscape business. These are landscapers across the country that have a following. And they do have the ability to be outside and talk, but it's their personality that carries it through. And they talk about different tips and information on lawn care. But some of these guys are 20 to 30,000 followers, and so their information is watched by a lot of people in that industry. But you can take it into any type of industry and become an influencer in a way.
Right.
And it depends on how you really capsulize your information so that it's of interest to your audience, and that's where, if your audience is looking for certain types of information, you can do it vocally, but then visually you may need to be able to put together more video support with it.
Yeah, and the other thing, when people say they have followers, there's so many things that you have to look at in that aspect, and that's probably another podcast, but just some of the quick things is, you can buy followers. It's not the thing to do. It doesn't work for you. Many people will automatically follow you that aren't in your industry just so they can get to know other people. So those are some things you really have to watch to make sure you get followers that are really effective for you. Another story, but that's something to think about.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I was going to say, once you have a podcast, where are we going to place it? There's Facebook. Now, there's also the other platforms that you can look at. YouTube is another platform.
Well, you're talking about a vodcast, right?
A vodcast versus a podcast.
Yeah, podcasts seem to have their own directories that you just go right into, and they'll put them in there. But a vodcast, yes, you can put it on YouTube, Facebook. You put it on all your social channels. Right. One of the things you can do with them that's really cool, and this will be another podcast as well, is cut them up into little 10-second, 20-second bits of information. And we're going to start doing that, Eddie. We just want to let you. We're going to start doing that. So what that'll be is basically you just take that little bit of information and you get it out there to kind of like a little sizzle to people. And that's also part of the editing process that a lot of customers don't want to do. They'd rather have you do it to make it go so it goes quicker, first of all.
Oh, yeah.
So those are some of the things that I think are pretty popular now.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. So good. So recapping, where do we begin? I would say from a budget standpoint, recapping, think about what you want to, what you're comfortable spending, what you can get away with spending every month. Don't break the bank. Try it out, test it, see if it works for you. If you're at that next level, find a group that can get you what you want at the price that you feel you can do it. Look at their work, look at what they've done in the past, look at all the different things you would look at with a regular vendor.
Yeah.
Correct?
Well, I was just thinking about, besides where you're looking at developing your budget and your content, thinking about what is the value to your audience as far as what they're going to learn or take away from it. Is it going to help them improve what they're doing, improve how they're working, learn about some type of way of using your product that's going to be helpful? So, you think about all these things.
Podcast.
Yeah, that's another podcast. Actually, it is a podcast. Helpful tips, obviously, but
exactly.
Yeah.
So
I got to tell you a real quick story, though.
Yeah, go.
Okay, now this was going to be my, let's call it TikTok video on how to take a big cut log that came from a tree that we had taken down. I mean, it's probably almost not quite as big as this table, but it's round and it's very thick.
This table is what would you say, 4 feet in circumference?
3 feet.
3 feet.
3 feet. Let's go 2 feet.
For our podcast people.
No, the idea was, what am I going to do with these things? Swinging an axe, trying to cut it? No, you can do small ones, but running a log splitter, well, how to get it into my backyard is another story. So I thought, well, how about if I do a video of me drilling holes in this and then filling it with tiki fluid, tiki torch fluid, and all the little holes in the tiki torch fluid, and then setting them on fire so that it would burn out the inside. Oh. Actually, didn't work. But what did work, it really made a nice, you know how you have these backyard fire pits? It made a really cool, with all the holes in it, tiki torch. So it's tiki torched out of a round log, but it's an informational kind of like how they do that. If you look at a lot of TikTok videos, you'll see that wait until the end type of approach. You know, you start with it, and then it's like, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And so many people are trying to get themselves out there.
There's nothing on the end.
Oh yeah, it goes to the none. It goes to the nothing. But it's the anticipation of what the answer is going to be. So sometimes in setting up your content, you think about what is the question I'm going to raise, and how am I going to answer it in my conversation or in my video. So I'm just throwing that out there, but I may have to post that, and you can check out my tiki torch log.
That'll be good. Let's see. All right, great. I know we didn't stop to talk about our sponsor, so we're going to do that now, and then we're going to say goodbye.
VVS Film Productions develops company videos for some of the largest corporations in the world. From healthcare to industrial, we've got you covered. So contact us at 440-653-9911 or info@dvsfilmproductions.com to see how we can help your company with all of its video content marketing needs.
Okay, we're back. Goodbye. Have a great day.